So yesterday we asked the question whether the Isa of the Quran is the same as the Jesus of the Gospels. And one of the fundamental differences we noted in our understanding of Jesus was regarding our respective views on his death. As Christians, we have a clear understanding that Jesus was crucified under Pontius Pilate, and that reality is at the very heart of our faith. I'm also conscious that Muslims take a very different position in that, based on the Quran, they would claim that Jesus was not in fact crucified, that he didn't die. And that's really based on one single verse from Surah 4, Ayah 157. I'm actually going to read that to you. I'm going to read from the Yusuf Ali translation, so I trust that that's acceptable. But you can follow it in whatever one you feel is perhaps more appropriate. That they said, "We killed the Messiah, Jesus, the Son of Mary, the Messenger of Allah. But they killed him not, nor crucified him. But so it was made to appear to them, and those who differ in it are full of doubts, with no knowledge, but only conjecture to follow. For certainly they killed him not." And the next ayah says, "Nay, Allah raised him up to himself, and Allah is exalted in power, wise." So it seems to state that Jesus himself wasn't the victim of crucifixion, that he didn't die by that means. So certainly Muslims would claim that a crucifixion event took place. It's just that they believe that it wasn't Jesus who was crucified. And that's elaborated on by the claim that another took the place of Jesus. That seems to be the most popular view amongst the majority of Muslims. And again, there's a division of opinion as to who that might have been. Some say Judas, some say Barabbas, some say Simon of Cyrene, some say an unknown person who volunteered to take Jesus' place. And there are also others who claim that Jesus didn't actually die but swooned on the cross and later revived and therefore escaped death. It's known as the swoon theory, and that's really held by the Ahmadi Muslims, but also significantly Shabir Ali, one of the top Muslim debaters, seems to take that view and favour that view as well. So what are we to make of that? What of the evidence itself? I think that's important to examine that. And I've got 4 lines of evidence really that would seem to authenticate the Christian claim that Jesus was in fact crucified. And the first is that all the gospel writers attest to the crucifixion of Jesus. John was an eyewitness. He was there at the scene of crucifixion along with Jesus' mother Mary, and you would think that Mary of all people would be able to recognize her son. Secondly, non-biblical historical sources also attest to this event taking place. So notably Josephus, a Jew, and I know that there is some dispute over some of the things that Josephus writes. There is a claim that some of his writings have been added to, but certainly the original seems to attest to the crucifixion of Jesus, if nothing else. Tacitus, Thallus and Lucian, Roman writers, again attesting to the crucifixion of Jesus under the Roman procurator Pontius Pilate, and all writing in the 1st and 2nd century. Thirdly, that there are the vast majority of modern scholarship also attests to the crucifixion of Jesus. Even skeptical scholars, as I mentioned yesterday, like Bart Ehrman, claim that the crucifixion of Jesus is one of the most attestable facts of human history. In fact, the Quran seems to be the only document that denies the crucifixion of Jesus. But fourthly, there's a further problem. How can Allah allow the followers of Jesus to be so deceived into believing he was crucified, to preach that he was crucified, to die with the belief that he was crucified, allowing Christianity, the message of Christianity, to spread and to become the largest religion in the world, and tell no one except Muhammad some 600 years later in a very different historical and geographical context? Even the one verse where this event is denied seems a little unclear, and there's no hadith, there's no tafsir that seems to back up or to comment on that particular statement. And I wonder how you would interpret Surah 4:157. Surely if Prophet Jesus really didn't die, Allah would have made that clearer by giving us further scriptures. And however you interpret it, how does it fit in alongside Surah 19, Ayah 115? The same phrasing is used of Yahya, who did die, and the sequence is death, then resurrection, not resurrection, then death. Islam teaches that Jesus was taken up to heaven and will return on the day of resurrection, live for 40 years, marry, then die. Well, I'll leave you to draw your own conclusions. There's much more that could be said on this topic. But please allow the evidence to lead you rather than your traditionally held views. I'm happy to explain not merely the fact of the crucifixion, which we as Christians celebrate today at Good Friday, but more importantly, the reason for it, why we call it good, and why it is at the heart of our salvation and yours. So again, feel free to contact me, mark@grecuk.co.uk. If you'd like to enter into an online debate on this subject, I'd be more than happy to do that. Thank you for listening.